the guys from Ping, they've kind of shown me how much the equipment matters.
I just love that I can hit any shot I kind of want.
We're going to be able to tell some fun stories about what goes on here to help golfers play better golf.
Welcome back to the Ping Proving Grounds podcast. Exciting guest today, Shane Bacon with Marty Jertson. Marty, one of the great pros, and longevity has been one of the keys to success.
Yeah, 4-time PGA Tour winner. Harris English, is awesome to have you on the pod.
Appreciate you having me, guys.
Are you a podcast guy, Harris? Are you into it? Do you listen to them? Or
I do a little bit, not a whole lot of golf podcasts.
Right.
Been into Huberman lately, just kind of learning about a lot of different things.
What are you into right now?
The Huberman podcast, the Stanford professor.
Yep.
Just kind of some science stuff, performance stuff of how I can get better on the course, eating wise. He had a good alcohol podcast recently that I've listened to, but yeah, really anything but golf. I feel like we're in the golf world so much. It's kind of nice to get away from it and listen to something else.
Were you a consumer of golf stuff, like when you were an amateur, when you were a college kid? I mean, I know that kind of changes once it becomes your job, but did you read when you were younger? Did you read like golf books, things like that at all?
I did. Obviously, growing up in the Tiger Woods era,
Yep.
got us all into golf, and watching him in the 2000s was incredible. And I feel like I love collecting golf clubs. I love old school golf clubs, even at home. I mean, I know the Ping guys know that once I find something that I like, I stick to it. And Ping has made some unbelievable clubs throughout the years, and I love kind of holding on to those relics.
One of those, Harris, is your putter.
I still have one.
Ho hum. When did you first start using that?
So my senior year of college at Georgia, was struggling with my putting a little bit going into my spring semester, my last semester. And I think Scott Sullivan, who was the college rep for Ping, sent me a couple putters, and the Ho Hum was one of them. I don't even think he sent it to me. He might have sent it to a couple of our players. And our assistant coach got it. He was out on the putting green saying how good it was, and I ended up trying it. And it stuck. Played really well that spring semester. Made it pretty far in the pub links. Won the Southern Amateur. Won the nationwide event. And it kind of kept going. And it's one of those things where if it's not broke, don't fix it. And something about the face on it. I mean, I know Nate Lashley putts with a similar putter out here. For us, it's like 3-wood and putter. It's the hardest thing to get rid of, to change.
Yeah.
And it's one of those where I know the good and bad of it. I know my misses with it, and it's just something you kind of stick to.
Are you using the same exact one from college?
I have 4 different ones right now that I've kind of collected over the years. So I don't know if it's the exact same one. I'll kind of put one in the corner for a little bit to take a time out if it's not working right. But yeah, I mean the grip. I mean the whole grip thing at the Ryder Cup. I mean I don't really like to change grips a whole lot. I like it kind of worn in. Because my hands sweat a little bit, and I don't like a real shiny, slippery grip. So I like it worn in a lot. I know the guys on the trailer will sand it down a little bit for me. But yeah, it's worked really well. I've tried a lot of different putters. I mean, but it's hard to switch.
What's your club collection like at home? How many clubs do you think you have in your garage or wherever you store them?
So we're in the process of moving, and I had to clean out a lot of clubs, and I didn't realize how many clubs I actually had because
Kept pouring out of a closet.
Yeah, it was a lot. And if I've played a tournament with one, or I can remember a shot with a certain club, I really can't give it up.
Yeah.
Especially with wedges, different grinds, and like, oh, this is how it felt. 3-woods, I still have a lot of G2s, G5s that I loved. I loved that deep face on the G5 3-wood. That was probably my favorite 3-wood I've ever had.
Yeah.
But I have some old school Ping, like the ISIs were amazing, stuff I grew up with. But yeah, I've had to clean out some that I didn't really like and had to get rid of, but I still have a lot.
Yeah.
Moving into a new place, are you going to have, always interested in this with pro golfers and pro athletes, are you going to have an area to kind of display stuff you've done throughout your career? Is that on the plan?
Yeah, I don't want to make like our living room or anything like a trophy room.
Like around the TV.
Yeah. There'll be a couple spots for the special trophies. Little Ryder Cup that we got for the tournament will be in there. A couple of my wins will be in there, but I'll have a kind of a golf storage room off the garage that I'll have a lot of my clubs kind of facing. I that was one of the rooms I got to design. So I will get to display all my clubs and get to be able to see them instead of just piled up in the corner. I'll be able to see them easier and put some stuff in there. Again, you collect so much golf stuff, pictures, and I mean, the Tiburon,
team bags, things like that. I mean,
team
it's a big
bags,
part of.
Yeah, it's a lot of stuff, and you don't want to get rid of it, but I don't want to have it like all around the house. Like, again, you kind of want to get away from it a little bit and not have all the golf stuff in your face all the time.
When did you feel like you weren't a newbie on tour anymore? I know you're in your mid-30s now and you've turned pro back in 2011. When do you feel like you felt comfortable as a pro in terms of you knew everything when you were traveling, you knew about the golf courses, you kind of knew where to stay, you knew places to eat, and then you started to see the young guys pop up and you were thinking to yourself, oh, those guys are much younger than me. That's like a different generation. Do you know when that kind of hit?
I would say recently. I mean, I've always – coming on tour when I was 21, 22 years old, I was always the young guy, and there was just a few of us out here. But I'm in my 13th year now, and I feel like probably the last 5-6 years I've really gotten comfortable. Just like you said, learning how to travel, where to stay, where to eat. It takes a while, and you get to know the courses you come back to every single year and love the places you come to. I mean, it's really cool traveling or spending a week in every city. Out on tour, you feel like you're a local for a week, and you get to know a lot of the people, a lot of the local spots. So we have a good time, and my wife and I spend the whole West Coast swing, staying on the West Coast. Even if I take a week off, I don't go back home. We stay out on the West Coast and make some memories out here. So it's been a lot of fun, and I've enjoyed the ride. I mean, it's crazy to think this is my 13th year on tour.
Happens quick, right? All of a sudden you're like, oh, wait, I've been doing this for this long?
Because you get such in a routine and thinking about this week and thinking about next week. And every year seems to be the exact same of what tournaments you play and where you're traveling. So it flies by really fast, but making some new memories. We got a 7-month-old little girl, and it's been fun doing some different stuff, like finding out where daycare is. So the new stuff that's popping up, traveling with a small kid and on tour is new and fresh, and it's been a lot of fun so far.
How does the baby travel? Doing good on the flights, like handling that? I know that's not easy. We just traveled to Orlando. I've got a almost 5-year-old and almost 2-year-old, and it was disaster zone on the airplane.
You're in the midst of it.
Yeah, I mean, you can like sit, you can sit the baby, and then like the car seat on the plane, and hopefully get about an hour of freedom.
So that was the mistake we made flying out to Hawaii. Is we just got a seat for my wife and I.
Oh yeah,
so we're just
have the extra seat,
passing her back and forth. She wasn't comfortable, trying to go to sleep, feeding her. So I've learned my lesson. We're going to get her own seat now. I'll put the car seat in there. She's into Coco Melon now, so we've
that'll burn an hour.
Kind of dabble that in a little bit. But yeah, kind of learn on the fly. I mean, it's pretty easy right now that she can sit still and be in her seat, but I know it'll change soon when she's up walking around and getting into a lot of stuff.
Yes.
Harris, tell us about like 2020, 2021. I mean, you had an amazing year in 21. We could all see signs of that kind of building up. What came together for you, either, training wise, technique wise, equipment wise, to build up? You won the Travelers in 21, obviously special week of the Ryder Cup. What were the things that all came together around that time?
Yeah, it was unfortunate. Obviously COVID hitting. I felt like I was playing some really good golf. At the Players that year, I think I was in second place. I think I shot 65 that first round, and I was really feeling good about my game. And then
that was the Hideki one when he shot 63 and you shot 65.
Yeah. Feeling really good about that tournament, and then going to bed that night, and then wake up at 11 p.m. and they've canceled the tournament, and it's like, well, what now? But I worked really hard during COVID. I trained a lot. I practiced a lot. Worked with my coach Justin Parsons. I used that time to really get a lot better at golf, and when we didn't start again, I was ready to play. So I'm not sure everybody did that. I think a lot of guys took that time to be with their family and hang out and take a little vacation from golf, but I used that to get better and be ready to play when the time came, and I came out pretty hot. I think I missed the cut the first week at Colonial, but then Hilton Head the next week I got started and kept rolling, and I started playing some really good golf. Won the Century Tournament of Champions in a playoff over Waco. It was nice to get back in the winner's circle again. that break of not winning since 2013, you kind of forget how hard it is to win out here on tour, and you got to have kind of all the stars align. And it lined up that week. I was putting really well, I was playing really well, and to get in the playoff and be able to birdie that number 18 again to win the playoff was amazing. And then the crazy Travelers 8-hole playoff.
I mean, you literally same year you have birdie the first hole of a playoff to win, and then you have that 8-hole marathon, which is like par after par after par. I mean, those are two totally different situations for a player, totally different kind of approaches mentally. I mean, you go out and like you said, you catch fire and make a birdie early, and it's winning. And the other one, like, how did you handle 8 holes? What was that, like an hour and a half, 2 hours of golf extra on the back end of the final round?
Yeah, it was a wild day. I remember playing the final round with Jason Day. I birdied 18, made like a 35-footer, left to right breaker. For me, that was either to win the tournament or get in a playoff. It was playing pretty hard coming down the stretch. The wind was picking up. 17 and 18 were straight downwind and pretty hard to access the pins. So I knew that was a really big putt. And I remember Jason Day telling me, kind of walking up to the scoring trailer, like, hey, stay calm, be ready for a playoff. Go do your routine, be ready for it. And I thought that was really cool of him to say. And saw my scorecard, went straight to the range and kind of warming up like I was playing in a playoff. And then I heard the roar, Kramer making the birdie on 18 to get in the playoffs. So I was ready. I never let myself kind of go back down and then come back up. I kind of stayed at the same intensity the whole time, and I feel like that really helped me during the playoff. But yeah, it was tiring. My caddy Eric Larson really kept me in it. My low back was starting to get pretty sore. That was a long day. I mean, walking 18 holes and then warming up again and then playing 8 holes. I mean, it was grueling, but you got to mentally stay in it. I felt like we battled it out pretty well. We made some really clutch putts, and I know people on TV were like, why can't somebody make a birdie?
Yeah. I mean, well, it's just I mean, it was fun to watch. You know, it was kind of fun to watch. Like, I mean, it was this literal tennis match. You know, it was like a tiebreaker in tennis where you're seeing like good shots hit and passing shots hit, and you're kind of waiting for somebody to hit the winner. And it kind of, I mean, I'd say for most average golfers, they see that and they think to themselves, either you're going to win or lose this at some point, but to stay in it and continually kind of get back to that tee and go, all right, routine again. I mean, like you said, Jason Day told you, I mean, that shows kind of the mental fortitude of pro golfers, you know.
And I remember one shot I kind of flared a wedge short right of that pin, being too aggressive and plugged it in the bunker. And it's kind of do or die. Like, I'm trying to hold that out. I know I have to make par on that hole. And I like that. I like being in that mental space of like you said, a tennis match is do or die. I know what I have to do. I've got to do it. And you got to stay in the moment. And I feel like I did that. I stayed calm. I was very focused and in the moment. And it worked out. And the crowd seemed to be in favor of Kramer, which I liked a lot. I like kind of being the underdog in that situation. It seemed like they wanted him to win. And felt like my caddy and Eric, were the only two out there that wanted us to win. And I kind of liked that situation.
So you went from 13 to 21 without a victory. What were some of your close calls along the way there during that stretch?
Yeah, I remember losing a playoff to Jason Day at Torrey Pines. Played really well there. I remember Colonial coming down the stretch. I felt like I was tied for the lead or maybe one up, and then Jordan Spieth birdied the last 3 or 4 holes to beat me. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of close calls. And then kind of went through a little regression in my game, 17, 18-ish. Learned a lot about myself and about my game. When you're coming out on tour, everything's new and fresh and fun and seeing everything for the first time. And for me, I knew how to play the game. I just didn't know a whole lot about why I did certain things and why that made me good. So it was easy to fall in the trap of like playing with guys like Dustin or Rory, Phil, Tiger. It was like, why can't I do that? Why can't I swing the club like that? But everybody does it different. And for me, it was finding why I do certain things my way, and I can't do things that other guys can do. And you can kind of fall in that trap. And I did a little bit of chasing different swings, had a lot of different swing coaches, and that didn't work for me. And luckily found Justin, I think in early 2019, and things starting to click and kind of getting back to how I played the game and practiced and trained and all that. And it's been great.
Yeah. Harris, you're one of those guys that when we design our blueprint irons, we kind of always have you in mind. You know, like our original blueprint, you played those when they first came out. Now you're playing the blueprint tees. And when we're designing the product, it's always like, wow, we got, this is the iron Harris is going to play.
Right. It's like Harris and Tony is like, these guys are going to be dialed on these.
Exactly. Tell us about your first experience with our original blueprint, and then what it's been like transition to the new blueprint tee.
And it was wild seeing those blueprints for the first time, because it's unlike anything Ping's ever made. Which is incredible. I mean, kind of stepping outside their boundaries and making a true players club.
Yeah.
For us out here that like to work the ball, that can spin it enough, and especially to keep the low irons down a little bit. That's kind of what we struggle with, is you get into the wind and some of these game improvement irons flights the ball too high and we can't control it as well. So I love the way they look, and hitting them for the first time, just the feel is incredible. And being able to work the ball both ways, hitting it high, hitting it low, everything. And it was unlike anything I've ever seen from Ping. And I was in love with it from the first time I hit it. And I think it was an easy transition going to the blueprint tees. The offset is a little bit different, so it took a little bit to get used to that. But once I started playing with them, it was a very easy transition, and I love them.
So are you, with your iron play, are you mostly a shot maker in terms of controlling your vertical, or do you curve it? Do you curve it left to right, right to left into different pins, or crosswind scenarios?
I like to do both. Depending, I like the pin and the wind kind of dictate what shot I'm trying to hit. Because I feel like I can hit both, and the hardest pin for me is a pin in the dead center of the green, because I can see both shots, and it's hard for me to commit to one or the other. But if the pin's on the right, I can see a fade in there all day. If the pin's on the left, water left, I can see a draw in there. So I like to do both, and like playing with Bubba Watson, I love watching him play, because I don't curve it as much as he does, but I see the same shots that he does. So I love playing with that freedom and just kind of letting the scenario dictate what shot I'm trying to hit, instead of trying to force a shot into something that I'm not really comfortable with.
You talk about center pins. What do you typically go with? If you're saying you're looking at a center pin, no wind, I mean, are you 65% I'm going to hit a fade, or you draw, or you hit it straight? What do you do?
I don't really know. It depends on the yardage. Like if I'm trying to take some off, I'm trying to add a little bit. That's the toughest one, because I can see both, and it's so hard for me to just commit to one, because I don't know. I'd much rather a pin be tucked than be in the dead center.
So a little different philosophy than what the average player wants. An average golfer's like, I don't want 5 off the left or 4 off the left. And Harris like 4 off the left is great.
Because we never really see that unless it's a pro-am.
Right.
That's what we're kind of used to is playing, like going out for the pro-am. I'm used to seeing the pins tucked, so I'm used to working balls and missing them in certain areas.
But if you have a tweener yardage, then you might hit a little draw or take a little off by cutting it a little bit.
Yeah. That's I had to do it a lot at Pebble. I mean, when the greens get really soft, I have to take a lot of spin off. That's the hardest thing for me, because I spin it a lot with my wedges and my irons. That's the hardest thing for me. So I'm working on that a little bit. But yeah, I mean, if I'm trying to add a little bit, I'm going to draw it. If I'm taking it 5-6 yards off, I'm trying to hit a little soft cut in there.
Yeah. Harris is the ultimate blueprint tee player.
Yeah.
I mean, just shaping it both directions, high spin. You're fighting, unlike the average player, getting spin off. We're trying to help them get the ball in the air, which is pretty cool. Now, Harris, what about transitioning into your wedges? You're one of I don't know, not too rare, but Shane's one of them that plays our, S159 pitching wedge, basically, right? The 48. Have you always played that? Why do you choose that over the set pitching wedge?
I don't know. Just if I'm playing a wedge, I want it to look like my other wedges.
Yeah.
I've never really done well with like a set pitching wedge. I don't know why. I chip a lot with my pitching wedge. I hit a lot of bump and runs, long bunker shots. I feel like it has more playability. I don't know. I don't know if I'm one of the few, but I've kind of always gravitated towards playing a pitching wedge like my other wedges.
Yeah. Same for me too. It's like the shots are on the green. It's just, I mean, when you look down at it, it looks like you're
Get
50.
you
It
in
looks
that
like you're
headspace.
56. You know, it's
Yeah.
just so much easier. And I feel like
Yeah.
you're more confident pulling that club out and going with it. So I'm with it. Can we go back to 2011 for a minute? Because obviously 2024, we've seen an amateur win on the PGA Tour. You won on the Korn Ferry Tour as an amateur. What point during that week did you think you actually might win the golf tournament?
That was a wild week. I just won the Southern Amateur the week before. I was playing really well, and that was one of the events where if you're an All-American, I think I was a second-team All-American, I got in the tournament at Ohio State. But it was a weird week. Like, I was paired with Peter Uline and Bank. I'm going to butcher his last name. Arnon von Vonage.
I think you nailed it.
We called him Bank.
Sound great.
So I played with 2 amateurs the first 2 days, and then I played with John Peterson, I think, the third day.
Also an amateur at the time,
Also
right?
an amateur. And I think the last day was the only time I played with a pro.
Okay.
And I played with John Peterson as well. So to me, it was a comfort zone. Like I played with all my buddies that I played with for a long time. It was weird. Like it was just, I felt like I was just battling out with John Peterson the whole time, and just like our college days. And it was a strange week. Like it didn't feel like a pro event to me. Like I wasn't playing for money. I was out there trying to make the Walker Cup team later that year, just trying to do the best I can. And it was such a comfort zone for me. And on top of that, playing some of the best golf of my life. So it was awesome to be in the mix, and unfortunate John Peterson made bogey on 18. I made birdie to get the win, but it was an awesome week and really jump-started my career.
Are you surprised that it took so long for an amateur to win on the PGA Tour? Obviously, we had it happen in 2024, but, I mean, you go back to 92 with Phil Mickelson winning as an amateur. I mean, we've seen amateurs get in contention even at major championships. You think about the Open Championship a few years ago at St. Andrews, but it felt like as good as these amateur players are and as many experiences they're getting in pro events and being on camera, you feel like that comfort level is going to get there at some point. Did it surprise you that it took this long, 92 to 24, to see an amateur win on the PGA Tour?
It actually has, yeah, especially with the guys. I mean, Spieth was probably pretty close to doing it. Scotty Scheffler got in a number of events. I know it's a different level of pressure when you're an amateur compared to a pro, but yeah, it has surprised me that it hasn't been ticked off before now. And you could see it happen more often in some of these not smaller fields, but not as big name tournaments.
Not signature events or
not
things
signature
like that.
events. I mean, it was awesome to see. I think the whole world was pulling on Nick Dunlap to do it. It was awesome to see, great for golf, and just shows how good these kids in college are. I mean, that's how it's been for a while. I mean, these kids are ready to play. I mean, the facilities in college, the training these guys are doing, and they are coming out thinking they can compete, and they can, and they're great players. And I think you'll see it more often. I don't know if you'll see it every year, but I think more amateurs are probably going to get some starts in the PGA Tour, and they got a great chance to pull it off.
I think being on TV helps too. I mean, I just feel like when you're kind of going through some of the things that an amateur golfer has obviously improved since you were a college golfer and an amateur golfer, facilities are great, travel is great, but having cameras on you, having crowds around, like that's becoming more popular in amateur golf. You're seeing collegiate events on TV a lot more. And when you're more comfortable in that scenario, and then you get to the PGA Tour, it's not such a jump. You know, it's not such a big jump. You go out and shoot 65 Thursday, Friday at a PGA Tour event, and all of a sudden cameras are on for the first time, and you're like, what do I do?
Yeah.
You know, do I walk weird? Do I do these types of things? Well, you don't have to worry about that anymore when you're on TV 5, 6, 7 times a year.
Yeah, and when I was in college, we were never on TV, and I think that's why they went to the match play, to be able to get college golf on TV, and it's awesome to watch on the Golf Channel. I love watching college golf on TV, and yeah, to your point, I mean, if they're more comfortable in those scenarios in college, they're going to be more comfortable when they get to tour, and it's not going to be that much different. So it's awesome to see, and it just shows where college golf is now. And people may think the average golf fan probably doesn't watch a whole lot of college golf or amateur golf, but these guys are really good, and they need to tune in more to the U.S. Amateur, to the Walker Cup, to these big-time college events, because these kids are coming on the PGA Tour, and they're going to be the stars here in a few years.
I mean, it's happened so fast, Marty. I mean, I think that's what's been so surprising over these last few years is kind of going back to 2019. You think about that group, that crop jumping off, and you got, Victor obviously played so well at that U.S. Amateur at Pebble, and Justin Suh was #1 amateur in the world. It's like all these guys come up at the same time, and they win, and they
Yeah.
contend and they play well. And obviously you're seeing it now. Ludwig had obviously a great season. I mean, ADDC wins on the Korn Ferry Tour in his first start. It almost feels like they're itching to get out there, and how much different do you see the amateur golfer now versus when you turned pro? Like is it drastically different in terms of how they are right out of the gate?
I feel like they're just a more complete player. I mean, the biggest thing I've seen is these kids now hit it so far.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember coming out my first couple years, I felt like I was one of the longest on the PGA Tour. And really my numbers have stayed the same. And like every year I just keep dropping back and
Your
driving
percentile
distance.
goes down.
Yeah, I think I was like top 15 maybe my first year on tour. And I feel like my numbers have stayed the same. And I don't know what I am now, but I'm probably past 50th. And these kids hit it long, hit it straight. They're not scared. They're hitting driver more often.
Yeah.
I mean, we didn't have
Yeah.
all these stats coming out
Right.
about how to play certain holes, how to be aggressive, how to make birdie.
Do you dive into that stuff? Like, do you
A
look at
little
that stuff
bit,
as
a
well?
little bit.
Okay.
I mean, for me, it's more of a comfort level too. Like now I've played these golf courses for 12 years. Like I kind of know the blueprint for each course and what suits my game. I'm not going to hit driver somewhere where I'm not comfortable with it. I mean, I feel like the strength of my game is kind of my mid iron. So I'm not scared to lay back and hit it in the fairway and then access a pin with an 8-iron or 7-iron. I feel like that's a great part of my game. But yeah, I mean, these kids, they hit it long. They kind of grew up on the TrackMan, and they know how to optimize all that stuff. And the training programs have gotten to be incredible. I know you've kind of done some of that speed stick stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, we didn't grow up with that. We didn't really know how to do that. I mean, growing up for me with the Balata ball, the professional ball, like we never hit up on it. I kind of teed it low and launched it low, and
it was the one that started like an airplane. It
Yeah.
starts low and then
awesome,
ballooned up.
awesome to see. But
Great to see.
Now these guys are launching it so high with no spin and hitting it forever, and it's just the game has changed so much in the past 10 to 12 years.
Yeah, I think also there's like, players you see them bringing their foresight or what have you on the course. They're measuring every single shot,
Yeah.
so you're getting the feedback every time. Have you felt the pressure to increase your own distance, or have you stayed kind of immune to that? And hey, you are still a long hitter, and just do your own thing.
Yeah, I'd rather do it in like the workout trailer, the training room,
Yeah.
and not really mess with my swing too much, because I know you can kind of go too much. I've heard of guys doing a lot of that speed six training, and maybe it messes up their 7-iron or messes up their wedge. Like, yeah, it'd be cool to get 15 extra yards off the tee, but if it diminishes some of the other parts of my game that are very good, then I don't really see the benefit of that. But I'd rather do it in the workout room, working on my body, trying to do some more ballistic stuff, speed stuff in there,
Yeah.
to then hopefully help that translate to my game.
At this point, are you trying to maintain, or are you feeling a little pressure to gain some ball speed?
Maintain right now, but I mean, yeah, it wouldn't hurt now. I mean, this past off season was my first off season really in golf in 12 or 13 years
Yeah.
since college. So I feel like I used it wisely to gain some strength, gain a little speed. And during the season, you're just trying to maintain for me. I mean, the most I'm going to take off this year is probably 2 weeks at a time. So it's really hard to do a whole lot of that stuff in your off weeks.
Let's talk about your driver, Harris. G430 LST.
Yeah.
For a long time, you played the G400.
Yeah. Again, the sound. I mean, when Ping came out with the G400, that was probably my favorite driver I've ever played. The sound for us, the sound, the feel, the look. I mean, all of it are mixed in together. And even now, like hitting that G430, I'll have people like turn their heads like, man, that sounds really good.
Yeah.
And it's hard to replicate that. And I think for me personally, the G430 is a great answer to the G400 for me, of the sound, the feel, what I'm looking for in the flight. It's been amazing. I've tried the 10K a little bit, which is awesome. The miss hits are incredible.
Yeah.
Definitely a little bit of getting used to swinging a little bigger head. You can feel it more in the swing, but man, I mean, that G430 line is awesome.
Yeah. So the LST with the composite on there gets the acoustics a little bit deeper, and that's what you're kind of that was very important to you, right?
Yeah, and I feel like a lot more of those heads sounded that way when I was younger. The G2,
Yeah.
the G5, like had that deeper sound to it, not the tingy.
Yep.
I don't know. For us, I mean, it makes such a difference, and I don't know what it is, but when we practice so much, when we play so much, you get used to certain sounds, and I know sound and feel correlate so much. They might not in the world you're in, but for us, sound and feel are correlated a lot.
Actually, I think this is an experiment the listener can do is put on, and so many kids now practice with headphones
Right.
on, and that you could put noise canceling headphones on and hit a bunch of different putters, and you can't tell the difference in the feel.
Mm-hmm.
So it's almost you could argue it's 100% sound is the feel you get, especially off a putter. Right?
Is practicing with, I think we've talked a little bit about this, but is practicing with headphones a bad thing to do, in your opinion?
In my opinion, I think so.
You
Because
don't do it?
want
You
that.
don't put
I
'em
don't.
in?
If I'm doing like a Huberman podcast, I'm kind of have it on very low volume.
Okay.
If I'm chipping or something, so you can still get that, get that acoustic feedback. But
You're not having
Or
like,
what
you're not
about
having like
you,
the big ones.
no,
on.
I'm not doing that at all.
Yeah, I don't really put the AirPods in. I'll have like a speaker or my phone playing something.
Yeah.
But like you, I don't like putting AirPods in because you like chipping, putting, the feel aspect, like you don't get the same response.
Yeah.
Or I can't tell like an iron shot, like did I hit that perfect or I missed a little bit? Like it's hard to tell when you have AirPods in.
Yeah. One of the big ingredients of your feedback.
Yeah, I mean, you got to
Yeah.
have it. Did you watch the college football playoff this year?
I did. I was
Yeah.
a little sad. The dogs weren't in
Begrudgingly?
it. Yeah. But it was
Who are you rooting for in that
I was-
situation?
I
Is it
was
just
rooting-
like everybody beat Bama kind of situation, or
I
what?
didn't want Bama to play. I didn't want him to backdoor another national championship.
Oh wow, backdoor!
Um,
Look at this, just a slight dig. I like that. I like that.
I wanted Washington to win. I thought that was a cool story.
Yeah, it would've been good.
Michael Penix was incredible. I know he didn't have a great championship game, but it was a cool story. Kind of an underdog. They were. I played Oregon twice, and they were still like a 9-point underdog playing them the second time, and Vegas didn't think they were very good, and they made it, and they kept beating everybody, and I kind of wanted them to win. But, I mean, Michigan had a great team. I would have loved to see Georgia play Michigan at some point. But it is what it is. I'm glad that they're going to the 12-team playoff, mainly for our scenario of losing one game in 29
And
games,
then you're out.
and then
Yeah,
you're
it's
out.
brutal.
So, I mean, we've got a really tough schedule, so we'd be lucky to get through that season with 1 or 2 losses. So hopefully we can get in that 12-team playoff. I think it's just going to make that even better and make it better on TV.
Why does the U.S. Open play into your hands so well? Because you played so well over the last few years at the U.S. Open in
Yeah.
terms of major championship golf.
I love that kind of golf. I love when greens get firm. It's a chess match out there. Where bogey avoidance might be better than the birdies for me.
yeah.
And if you get out of position, it's like, okay, where do I now need to put the ball to give myself a 4 to 6 footer for par? And I love that kind of golf, and very strategic. Kind of how I grew up. I mean, kind of small greens. You're not going to hit more than 12 greens. You got to get up and down. I love it. I love when the winning score is anywhere less than probably 10 or 12 under. I don't know what it is, but I've gravitated towards the U.S. Open and love when it gets really hard. I feel like that's when you got to have a great mental space out there and really start grinding and put the mouthpiece in. And that's what I love about that kind of golf.
So, like, when you're looking at the schedule and you see Pinehurst #2 as the host of the U.S. Open this season, you get excited, obviously. I mean, it's a tough golf course. They can play extremely tough. Par's a very, very good score on any hole out there. I mean, as you're kind of looking ahead at the schedule and you're looking ahead at the major season, I'm assuming when you see a place like Pinehurst and Oakmont and Wingfoot, that's hosting that year, it probably gets you pumped up.
Yeah, I know if I'm playing decent, I've got control over my golf ball. I feel like I'm going to be in that tournament every single time because I'm not going to beat myself. I'm going to use the practice rounds to really learn how to play that golf course and where to miss it to certain pins. And like I said, a chess match, and I love that kind of golf, and I wish we played more of that on the PGA Tour. I know it's very weather dependent, because for a lot of these guys out here, when the greens get soft, it's a dart contest. Right. And
is there a golf course on tour year to year that feels the closest to U.S. Open? Feels like it's probably Bay Hill. I'd say Bay Hill when it gets baked feels kind of U.S. Open-y.
Bay Hill, Tampa a little bit, Colonial when it gets firm. I just like when the conditions are really firm, and for me it helps out because I can spin it a lot.
Yeah.
That I can get to a lot of pins that other people can't get to. But yeah, I mean, when the greens get firm, it makes it more penalizing if you hit the rough because you can't really hit the green, and you've got to then, do I kind of run it up the front? Do I miss it in this bunker to get it close to the pin? So I enjoy that kind of golf.
Harris, you talked about a lot about having a bunch of different grinds and wedges, in your collection. Now you're using S159. You've used the H grind, which is our half moon, and also kind of toggling a little bit with our T grind. Tell us about, do you switch grinds a little bit depending on conditions, your technique, and where are you at right now on those two options?
I started with the T grind in Hawaii, especially sunny was a little firmer conditions. And the last couple of weeks I've switched to the H grind. Torrey was soft, Pebble Beach was extremely soft. So that's what I've got to get better at is kind of switching between two of for me, the bunker, if it's firm or soft. And that's what I'm working with the pin guys to travel with two wedges and to kind of go back and forth and have two wedges that I'm really comfortable with and just bring them in and out based on the conditions. So I'm learning a bit more like that and kind of enjoying knowing more about the clubs and the different grinds and how that can help me hit different chips and bunker shots and get the ball to do what I want to do.
So for you, a big priority on your 60 degree is bunker play?
Yeah. For me, kind of the short-sided bunker play, because if I'm going to be pretty aggressive getting in the pins and I do miss in a bunker, I want to be confident, like, okay, I can hit it in there and be fine. If it's not plugged, I got a good chance of getting up and down.
Yeah.
Because the pins are so tucked 3 to 4 paces off the green, you're going to have some really short-sided bunker shots. So you got to bring it in high and soft and have enough spin to keep it around the hole. So yeah, I'm really good at the basic bump and runs. That's why I like chipping with my 52, my pitching wedge. That's why I use the 159.
46 degree. Yeah.
Because I do use those a lot if I've got enough green to work with to bump and run it back there. But you got to be able to hit that high soft shot with a lot of spin out here on tour and having the right grind and the right fit to help me do that.
What is the best short game shot you think in your repertoire where you're better than most out here?
I practice a lot of like downhill fly bunker shots. For me, it's more of a training tool to where I stay in the shot. I don't back out of the shot. I practice a lot. I kind of do it in my warm-up routine. So I feel like anytime I get that shot in competition, I'm kind of excited to hit it. So I would say I'm probably better than most at long bunker shots and downhill bunker shots.
Take us to the Ryder Cup. You go out with Tony Finau, and you guys get Rory and Shane Lowry, and this is your first experience of the Ryder Cup. What was the first, let's say, 30 minutes of that experience like when you got to the first tee? You guys started to hit golf shots that got into the match, because, I mean, I could imagine it was nerve-wracking, exciting, intimidating, all those kind of things.
Yeah, it was awesome to get paired with my boy Tony. He's the best. Super fun, super even-keeled, great energy. It was a very comfortable pairing for me. I just love playing with Tony. I love being around him, and it was awesome to draw Shane and Rory. Like, all right, we're getting thrown in the mix. We got a great duo. Let's get after it. But there's so much build up to it, and then finally, after you hit that first tee shot, you're like, all right, we're playing golf again. It's go time. But I mean, that first tee shot, I mean, for me, it's like if I can get the ball on the tee the first time, and then
doesn't fall off,
your hands are shaking a little bit, and then that opening hole is just like hit driver as hard as you can, which is awesome. I probably wouldn't like hitting a 4-iron off that tee. But it was awesome. Hit great drives every day, and we had some great matches. Tony played great, putted great, beat Rory and Shane, and the next day we got Shane and Tyrrell Hatton, which is another great match. And they squeaked us out on the last hole. Shane made a 15-footer on 18 to win that match one up. But it was an awesome experience and something I'll never forget.
I mean, that's got to be a drug. It's like playing like contending in U.S. Open or getting in contention at a big event. I mean, playing in a Ryder Cup, probably the closest. It's around the Super Bowl right now when we're recording this, and it's probably the closest the golfers can feel to Super Bowl week. You get 2 weeks off. Obviously, you're not playing golf till Friday. A lot of build up, a lot of hype around it. Not much else is going on in the golf world. But when you're in that world, you're in that space, and then you go home on Monday or Tuesday, and you're thinking back to it, it's probably a mindset of I've got to get back to there. I've got to get back to that again in a couple of years.
Yeah, I mean, once you make one, you never want to miss another team. I hated not being with them in Rome this year, but I got up early with our baby and watched it on TV and a little bit of FOMO, but I loved watching them, and it's such a cool experience. And to anybody that has never been to a Ryder Cup, you have to go. I mean, the one at Bethpage next year or 2 years is going to be incredible.
Yeah.
There's just so much adrenaline and 4 matches on the golf course. Like every shot means so much. And it's like playing 16 at Scottsdale pretty much every hole. Your adrenaline is through the roof. I mean, even going back to the team hotel, it's just hard to settle down. It's hard to go to sleep, hard to get your rest because you're on such a high adrenaline rush. It's amazing. I mean, it was one of the best experiences of my life.
Yeah, that's incredible. I've played on 2 PGA Cup teams. So when the PGA of America spun off the Ryder Cup, they started the PGA Cup, which is for the club pros. So we play against GB&I. And that's been 2 of the funnest weeks. Obviously, we don't have the big galleries, but it's been on Golf Channel, and it's been super fun. I made the winning putt to beat GB&I in a huge comeback in 2021, and that was like the most fun I've ever had. Just a team golf.
More nervous in that, or more nervous like majors, or when you played here?
I was probably like 16 when I played 16 at Phoenix. There's so much buzz in there that I actually wasn't that nervous. And you're hitting a short, and you're hitting a pitching wedge.
Right,
you're
right.
mashing a pitching wedge or something like that.
You're not trying to chip a little 9-iron in there. You're taking one club less and hitting it hard.
I have my whole team around, and so it's like they're all relying on me to win this final hole. That was probably the most pressure I felt on the golf course, actually.
Team golf is different. I mean, it's way more pressure because for me, like I can deal with if I had a bad shot or short side myself, but
it's kind of on you.
Yeah,
like you have to deal with the consequences.
And playing best ball with Tony is a little bit easier than alternate shot. So like I let Tony play his game, he lets me play my game.
Yeah,
and we're trying to make as many birdies as we can. So it's a little bit easier. But yeah, team golf. I mean, you don't want to let your teammates down.
How did you and Tony pick which golf ball you're going to use?
So we played best ball. So we got to play.
Oh, that was a best ball. Yeah, that's right.
We got to play our own ball.
How'd you do that in the alternate shot?
Is it like rock, paper, scissors or something? Or are you just like,
I'm
who
not
cares
really
less?
Sure. Yeah, who cares less or who?
I guess like if you're paired with Tiger or Phil, it's like, we'll use your golf ball. Yeah.
I'll adjust.
Yeah.
The only time I've really done that is the Grant Thornton. Played with Matt Kuchar for years, and I played with.
Hey, you guys have like a run there.
Yeah,
you won it like 3 times. Is that right?
I think so. Yeah, got second a couple times. We've had a good run. That's an awesome event, and playing with Celine Boutier this year was awesome. Getting to meet some of the LPGA players and see their games. They're awesome and unbelievable wedge games, unbelievable putters. It was really cool to see that side.
What's left on the goals of Harris English for your career? Do you make goals? B, do you write them down, and C, what is on the list if you do?
Yeah, I make goals. I write them down some. I need to be better about that. But to compete in majors, I mean, 34, that's what we play for. I mean, that's why I'm on the PGA Tour is I want to play in as many majors as I can and have as many chances to win as possible. And even big tournaments on the PGA Tour, I don't care what tournament it is. I mean, if you're coming down the stretch in contention, you're feeling the butterflies, you're feeling the nerves, and you want to win because it's so hard to win on the PGA Tour. But yeah, I would love to knock off a major or 2 more. I mean, for me, it's like if I can get in contention half the tournaments I play in, that's a great year or that's a great week. If I'm within 2 or 3 shots to leave with 9 holes to play, that's a successful week for me because that's where I want to be. That's why I play the game, to get those nerves, to get that feeling, that adrenaline going, and to play on some Ryder Cup teams, play on President's Cup teams, because I got a taste of that. And like I said earlier, once you have that taste, you don't want to miss another one.
Do you keep all the gear? Like, do you keep all the shirts and stuff? Do you give them away? What do you do?
Most of it,
it's a lot of gear.
It is, and
it's like boxes of gear.
Yeah, and like cleaning out all my stuff the last couple months, it's like how much gear accumulates, and like we got that much stuff for the Ryder Cup, and you don't want to give it away. I mean, because it means so much, and I want my kids to be able to see it or wear it someday. Would be really cool. But yeah, being 13 years, you accumulate so much, and it's like what do I need to take with me, or what can I get rid of and not worry about?
Well, Harris, we really appreciate the time. Great chatting with you. I hope you have a great season. Excited to see you contend and compete in the major championships and keep doing what you're doing. Been a great chat. Thanks so much
Appreciate
for the time.
it. Shane,
Absolutely.
thank you. Marty,
Yep.
would love to shadow you someday at your work.
Feel free anytime you want. Come on over.
Come over there and build a couple clubs with
Yeah,
Marty and get
I
really
just-
dialed and see what he's doing.
I don't know a whole lot about it, but I love what goes into it, and I think it's really cool. So I'd love to.
Thanks, Harris. It's been fun working with you. And like I said, I was not joking when we think about designing some, always the deep face fairway wood. We talk about Harris. On blueprint irons, we talk about Harris. We're out working on putter designs and trying to, what can we learn from the ho hum? We're always,
Yeah,
we're
that
always thinking of you
Scottsdale
in the
line.
office.
What did that face of the Scottsdale? Why is it so
And
popular?
we've put that insert in a lot of other putters for players and just trying to learn. And I think you're so tuned into the feel, right? In marrying, yes, it needs to perform this way, but also what we want to do from a feel standpoint. So,
Rockstar, Harris English. This
Exactly.
is the Ping Proving Ground podcast.